Zion Williamson he joined the Gilbert Arenas podcast in the Blue Wire studio. You know, we had a lot of people pass by us there on Sunday. We had John Wall, Grant Williams, who else? Landry Fields, Josh Childress. He had a couple players pass by us. Gilbert Arenas and these guys, they're talking about Zion. And boom, just like that, serendipity. It's Zion walking past the Blue Wire studio, and they were able to connect. But, you know, it was interesting, man. He had a couple of interesting things to say, and I want to play some of these sound bites here. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. And let me play some of this from Zion, man. Here it is. This was Zion. Well, first thing that Gil asked him was about his weight. And this one, it's not really audible, so I won't play this clip. But he basically mentioned the fact that, you know, it's been a challenge to diet and maintain a healthy playing weight, and that he's been struggling with that as, you know, as he's gotten into the NBA. But here was another soundbite, and just in terms of just getting his weight together.
But
all right, here we go.
When you're young, you feel like can't nothing stop you, but then when you look back on your life, you really look at it like, man, the people who gave me wisdom, who like tried to nurture me, tell me, man, like you don't need to do that, you know, you need to do this. I mean, they didn't try to force their way into your life. So at this point in my life, I'm just looking back at it like, man, who really gave me wisdom? Who really tried to put me on game to things? And like I said, man, at the end of the day, people gonna get their opinions, and what I can say is I do respect brutal honesty. I'd rather somebody be brutally honest with me than try to sugarcoat it, because at the end of the day, if they honest with me, I know what I need to do to fix it. So,
yeah. All right, that was Zion on his weight and just trying to get back discipline, man. You know, I appreciate his honesty in this quick sit-down interview that he did with them, because there's so much to be made about him and his reputation, and does he want to play this, can he control the weight, this, that, and the third. He kept it brutally honest. He said, yo, it's been difficult. It's been difficult trying to maintain a weight, and I can only imagine for someone like him who has handlers. I'm sure the Pelicans have nutritionists, everybody, sports scientists out the wazoo, trying to make sure that he comes into camp in the best shape. But despite all of that, he still is not able to stay disciplined. And that's a real thing as human beings, right? We struggle with discipline in a lot of areas of our lives, not just diet, not just food. You know, so for him, I feel like it was refreshing for him to say that. Now the challenge, you know, he says he's getting out in front of it, and he wants to listen to the people that were trying to look out for him. Now the challenge is actually doing it and staying the course. Can he do it is going to be the big challenge.
Absolutely, man. And, you know, we had this whole conversation about Zion and would take him on the Knicks and whether or not he wants to play, injury, all of those concerns. The truth will be if he can get it under control. You know, it's nice that someone acknowledges the issue, acknowledges the problem. It now comes to, how do you take care of those problems? How do you address it? And for him, you know, I'm not going to judge how easy or how difficult it is. You know, as you already mentioned, like, it's difficult, man, to be regimented, all these things. And everyone's body is different. Look, he's a naturally big dude. We've seen this from high school, college, now in the NBA. He is a Mack truck, legitimately. You know, that's what makes him so dominant. You can't stop him. Look, you mentioned it on the last show. We saw him strip Kevin Knox in Summer League. That's how strong he is. But at the same time, with all of that, with all of his, you know, how great he can be, he's got to do it, man. And whether that comes down to sacrifice to a certain degree, right? What you eat, how you treat your body, everyone's different. How strict will you be going into the regular season? I mean, look, we see Julius Randle, right? As Knicks fans, he comes in great shape every single season. This past season, he was the most trim we probably ever seen him in a Knicks uniform, right? I think this is the fastest I've ever seen him run up and down a court. Julius Randle, I'm talking about. Zion, at some point, you got to figure it out, man. You just got to figure it out and put it's not, what is it? Mind over matter at this point. That's all it is. So it's good that he acknowledges it. Let's see if he can actually do it. I want to see him have a happy and healthy career, man. Yeah. I don't root for anyone to have failures, but at some point you can only be the change. You can only be that course of correction. So let's see if he can do it.
Discipline and maturity, man. I think, I hate to be, psychoanalyzed. I hate to be that guy, but just from what I've gathered from this interview, it's a 9-minute interview, 10-minute interview, just seems like a young person trying to find that discipline and maturity and apply that to the court. Not everybody comes in with the same approach as LeBron, as Kobe, as MJ, as Tim Duncan. Those guys that were just so locked in to their craft, locked into the game that nothing can move them off of that. This is a kid who, as we see in this new generation of social media, you're crowned the king before you even step foot on an NBA court, right? You have the overtime platform and this platform and highlights, Zion Duncan. You're the guy. You are the king. The world is your oyster. So I think for a lot of fans, it's hard to see him be vulnerable in this way because we already put him on that pedestal of being infallible, right? He's superhuman. He's a freak of nature, freak athlete. So now he's saying, hey, listen, man, like, I'm having difficulties here. I'm having challenges here. So it's just very interesting because with all these phenoms, with all these prodigies and Wembanyama and LeBron and this guy, you expect them to hit the ground run. LaMelo, you expect them to be that superstar that you prop them up to be right away. And so for Zion now, it's year 4. He's slow out the gate. But it's not on the court. It's preparing for a long season because he has a game that's predicated on power, on explosiveness. All your joints, everything has to be intact. It's all got to be there, or these injuries are going to happen. So, again, I'm very interested to see how he pushes through this, and what type of season he's going to have. Because as we've seen, when he's on point, boy oh boy,
he's unstoppable.
Far few people that could stop.
Look, beginning of this season, Pelicans were number 1 in the West. They were dominant.
Yeah.
We can't forget last season too. He was an all-star. He was just that dominant. The good thing, man, he's only 23. He's very young.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, the NBA does not. At some point that stops. At some point it says, okay, he's only so young. We're gonna give him so many chances. You now have to produce, and he's getting to that point where 25 is closely approaching. They're expecting him to produce now. Right. You talk about now he's going into his 5th year, right? Same draft as RJ. This will be his 5th year. You got to show some level of maturity. This is a business. So I would like to see him just get it together, man, because with not everyone gets these opportunities, man. It's so limited. And for something that is easier said than done, and I could say it's so simple when it comes down to diet. I know it's not the simplest thing. Like I said, everyone's body is different, but out of all the things that could change, I feel like this aspect of within his regimen, right? Dieting. I feel like that's the most controllable thing you can control.
Yeah.
Injuries, that's tough to control.
Right.
The system you play in, that's not easy to control because you're getting drafted. Diet, a little different. You control where you sit down to go eat, what you're eating, all that stuff. New Orleans, not gonna lie, very difficult place. I was down there,
man.
I was down there. I was down there for 8 days for Mardi Gras, man.
I was eating like a king out there.
Very tough.
Yeah. Food is phenomenal out there, man. No question.
Very tough.
Yeah.
So not easy to be in New Orleans and say, hey, man, go on a diet. Next thing you know, you go around the corner, be like, yo, that burger looks good. Yo, Southern breakfast. Let me get some grits.
Yeah.
Let me get some eggs.
Yeah.
Biscuits
and he's from the South. He's from South Carolina. So even before he got to New Orleans, I'm sure he was eating good. So,
Yeah, no, for sure. But look, man, I feel like once again, with the diet being I feel like the easiest part of it to change. I just want to see him be able to get that under control and go after it, man.
True, D, man. And then this was one of the final bits that he said here. And this is, once again, courtesy of the Gills Arena podcast. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Here is Zion. Here he is.
They want to just sit on the sideline. I think that's why I just want people to at least to understand, like, I don't want to be on the sideline. Y'all think I want to sit over there hurt? I don't. But like I said, like Coach K taught me, got to own up to my responsibilities. There are a lot of things I could have done better that I didn't. And I'm in the process of, fixing those wrongs.
Bro, you got.
So, hey, there's things he could have done better. He's in the process of fixing those wrongs. Now, David Griffin met with the team over at Sirius XM NBA Radio. Shout out my guys, Justin Termini and Amin El Hassan. The Pelicans GM David Griffin met with them and put down some of the Zion trade rumors that we heard this offseason. Here he is.
I would say it's as good as it's ever been, actually. He's coming out here to join the team, to be with Herb and Trey and some of these veterans that are here. Brandon's going to come join the team as well. I would say it's as good as it's been. I think what's unfortunate is he is a name that generates clicks no matter what the link says. No. Zion puts on his socks. People click on that. And so it makes it really easy for people to manufacture rumor around him because they don't have to have any kind of actual credibility behind what they say to generate clicks. Yeah. And we've, as a society, this isn't true of sports. This is true across all platforms. Reality doesn't matter anymore. Generating clicks matters. And so unfortunately for Zion, he's an oddity and somebody that people pay a great deal of attention to and manufacture a lot of stories around. We never had a single conversation that Zion was part of. I think people perceive that we would be willing to move off of Zion because of all the injuries, because there's always so much noise around Zion. And fortunately for us, the noise never actually matches what we're really experiencing.
Now, you said you didn't have any conversations. When teams see that, I assume that they're like, oh, this guy might be available. Did you receive a lot of calls? And what did you say when you received them?
No, we didn't. And I think one of the reasons for that is people understand who he is to our franchise and what he allows us to do. So people don't tend to call you and chase things that they know you're not going to do.
All right, that was Pelicans GM David Griffin, courtesy of my guys at NBA Radio Sirius XM today. That's what he says. He says they weren't entertaining it. They weren't receiving calls. I highly doubt it. Look, look, GMs are going to talk, right? If a guy is having a down year, you're going to try to get him on the cheap. That's just business. Now, were they motivated to trade him? I don't think so. I didn't see it. Like when all the trade rumors came out, I didn't think they were going to be that motivated. I don't think they're ready to hit the reset button on the Zion experiment just yet. This is your number one pick. You're only 4 or 5 years into the experiment. You just signed him into a rookie extension. You saw glimpses of how great he could be, albeit a short sample size. You're going to want to see these investments through at least a little bit longer. You have the investment in Ingram. You brought in McCollum. You have Valanciunas here. You have some young, promising rookies from Herb Jones. You just gave Herb Jones his deal. You got Dyson Daniels. You got Alvarez off the bench. They got a nice little squad. To me, pushing the panic button on Zion it's too early. And so I don't believe him when he says they weren't interested in taking calls and they weren't taking any calls. I think they might have been. Typically, GMs, you will. But I don't think they were motivated to trade him.
I don't think they were motivated. Or if they were getting, for sure, they're getting calls. People are going to inquire when they see those things, see those type of reports. I would just say that they probably got no offer that was intriguing enough to them. Right. Like, I'm sure, I'm sure they would entertain something if you gave them there's always an offer. There's always an offer.
You can't
let's
refuse,
keep it a buck.
Fam.
There's always an offer. But I just love how David Griffin is just like, clickbait everywhere. Zion put on socks. First of all, I will not click on a link if Zion's putting on socks. But you know what I will click a link on? If you're talking about Zion Mariah Mills, all right? Because that is why his name is getting headlines over the place.
Yes.
Just keep it a buck around here, okay? I love how he just that whole thing, just it didn't happen, man. Didn't happen. We're clickbait everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Okay. But hey, I agree with you though, CP. Like, you're not going to just blow up the whole experiment just because of these issues here and there. It hasn't been so catastrophic where you're ready to blow the entire thing up. Could you be frustrated? Sure. Did you trade for a guy in CJ McCollum who you now wasted another year of his career? He's going to be hitting a point where he can't produce at a high level, right?
Right.
You're looking to see, can this Zion experiment work? You're not really getting enough court time where between both of them. Both of them are injury prone. So, at some point, David's got to make a decision saying, hey, we can't, if both of them are not playing at the same time, you got to cut it short at some point. You got to say enough is enough. We got to figure out a different direction, and you got to choose between BI and Zion. Who do you want to move forward with? Because if both of them are going to miss time, it's just not going to help your team. As we always discuss, your best ability is availability. And if your two top players are not on the court at the same time, and they're going to be missing a crazy amount of games year in and year out, it's not an experiment that's going to work.